Welcome to the Real Dad YouTube channel. With many Canadians either deciding to or being forced to take up an RV as their primary residence, there's three things that I think you need to prepare for if you want to live in one of these full time. My family had to live in this camper over the winter. We weren't expecting to, as we're building a new house. We were hoping to be in by November. That didn't happen, and I learned a lot of things the hard way. So I want to give you my advice from what I learned so that you don't have to go through the same struggles that I did almost every day when it was below zero. So stay tuned. The best one's going to be the last one, and it's going to be one of the more important ones that you're probably going to have to think hard about if you haven't already. Tip number one is propane. You're never going to have enough. Probably going to have a 30-pounder, or like ours did, two 30-pound propane tanks mounted to the front bumper. Now in the wintertime, one of those 30-pound tanks, if it's cold enough, might get you through 1 to 1.5 days. I found myself refilling these tanks almost every 2 days, one at a time. I could alternate back and forth throughout the winter. It was a huge hassle, and that's if the store was open and if there was someone there qualified to fill a propane tank, which sometimes there wasn't, and I got caught short. Fortunately, I had a couple backup barbecue tanks that I could throw on the camper in that time. My suggestion to you, if you're going to know that you'll be in this over the winter, is to go ahead with a propane company and rent one of these 420-pound propane tanks. The annual rental will put you over about $100, I think, but you're gonna have a supply that's probably gonna last most of the winter. Now this will be for obviously your furnace, your stove, any other barbecues if you have a barbecue hooked up. This should be enough, and you can just call, they'll come to your location and fill these tanks up. It's definitely a cold experience when you wake up at 2 in the morning to find that your furnace has ran out of propane and it's only down to about 6 degrees in your camper, and you gotta run outside and switch tanks. I highly suggest you go this route. Now, along with this propane, I highly recommend a secondary source of heat, like a plug-in heater. Our camper had an electric fireplace. The problem with running electrical all the time is that the heat isn't traveling through the floor of your trailer, keeping that warm like it does when your furnace is blowing it through there. That's gonna come to my second point, water supply. Now our camper had 2 holding tanks, which was generally more than enough water to get us through probably a day or two. That's with 4 people using the showers, the toilets being flushed, etc. So what I did was I just kept a hose in our house, which at the time was enclosed and warm. I would pull the hose out and I would just fill up my bulk tanks pretty much every day, ensuring that I had enough water for the next morning. We do a lot of dishes in there too. That uses quite a bit of water. Now you can get heated hoses as well. If you're prepared for it, they are very expensive. So the closer you are to that water source, the better. Once you have your water supply established, you're next gonna have to find a way to keep your lines in your tanks, including your septic tank, from freezing up. You can get skirt kits that go around the bottom of your camper, and that will help, but lower temperatures, it's still gonna freeze anyways. Now I'm gonna show you what I would do if I had to do it again to keep everything from freezing. There is one of our storage tanks, and that there is the line going to our water pump. It would freeze pretty much every night if I didn't have a heater sitting right in here to keep it from doing that. My suggestion to you is to get some of that heating cable and fasten it along the length of all your water lines. Also, for these campers, you can get heating pads, and what they are is an adhesive pad that will stick to the bottom of your tanks, to your water tanks and your septic tanks. You can all do that with. Now I suggest if you're gonna get into really cold temperatures doing that, we never had an issue with the water in our storage tanks freezing up if they were full, but definitely those pipes all the time. And I'd have to use a little heat gun to thaw them out probably 6 in the morning to get everyone ready to go to school, and it was never pleasant. So look into heating those pipes. Finding yourself a heat gun like this is also gonna be an essential item that you should have in your arsenal to keep you comfortable through the winter months. Be careful with these heat guns. They will melt plastic if you get too close. You might want to try maybe a hair dryer on a high setting. Should be enough to help thaw some of those frozen lines out if they should freeze, which they probably will. Now my last but probably most important thing that you're going to need to consider is what you're going to do with your septic system. My advice to you, if it works for you, now we had one on site because we were building, is to get a porta potty. You pay a monthly fee to have the porta potty, and once a week you can have someone, and maybe twice, depends on how much you're going to have to use it. You can come and they'll clean it out for you, and you're not gonna have to worry about dealing with anything on your camper. If that's not an option for you, if you hate cold toilet seats, and most people do, and you really wanna use the toilet in your trailer, you can also have those same companies come and pump your trailer out once a week. If that's enough, maybe more. It's gonna cost you though. Every trip they make up is probably gonna be about $100. So that's something you're gonna have to keep in mind as well. What we did was grab yourself one of these. They're not cheap either, but you can fill this up. That company can come, and we had them when they came to pump out the on-site construction toilet, was I also got them to pump out this tank. I'd wheel it up once a week, and it was quite easy for him. He just stuck the pipe in and cleaned it out for me. Now, you got to be very careful with that valve that it doesn't freeze up either, because it will. So I also suggest the heating pads on the septic tank, the Blackwater tank, and maybe some warming cable wrapped around the valve, because you do not want to break that valve. Now, that Blackwater pipe that came with your trailer is probably going to be useless in the winter. I guarantee you it is going to break on you when you're using it. And trust me, that's not pleasant. I ended up getting a higher quality one like this, but even then, you still want to keep that somewhere where it's warm. Once this plastic gets too cold, it becomes brittle. If you pull on it too hard, you're going to have a mess to clean up. Put it this way, there is nothing fun about your Blackwater when it's freezing cold. My last little tip to go along with that is make sure this tank is bigger than the Blackwater tank on your camper. Mine's not, and I knew that, but I had to be very careful to shut it off at the right time. Honestly, if I could, and if you can, I'd go the porta potty route. Those are the 3 most important things you're gonna have to worry about before you decide to live in one of these campers full time. Your water supply, your source of heat, and what you're gonna do with your Blackwater. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got some information out of it. If you find this information useful and you know someone that's looking at living in an RV, maybe send them this video so they can save themselves a little bit of hassle and be more prepared, unlike I was. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, you can hit this logo right here. If you want to watch more videos from my channel, you can check out this one up here, and YouTube thinks that this one suits you best. Thanks a lot. See you next time.